All right. Welcome on in to another action-packed and live NFL free agency palooza, NFL live free agency extravaganza. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, and no, I assure you that is not Wilson from Tool Time back in the day, joining me from the home office of the Two Deep Zone. That is the one and only Mike Tanya, my friend, my colleague, my mentor. But, but Mike, there's something different about you today. I see you have the hat, but I can't quite place what's a little bit different. And you got the FTN Fantasy Almanac. I'm sure you're reading up on the chapters that you wrote last year, but what is going on over there?
Nothing at all. A little bit of Tool Time, a little bit of A.J. Brown, perhaps?
Yes. Is that A.J. Brown on the cover? No, that's Jalen Carter, who is not being shopped, I am told. But so I see that you're reading up over there.
Yeah. There's nothing unusual about me at all. Here, I'll put the book down.
Are you going to do the podcast with a scarf? It's 72 degrees outside. I went for a walk after a quick lunch. You're wearing a scarf. What is happening?
Okay, all right. So I shaved. I shaved my beard. I shaved my beard. For the first time in 20 years, I shaved the beard. Okay?
But why?
I came back from the combine, tired, wanted to take a couple of days off. Hard to take a couple of days off when Max Crosby's getting traded, etc. I just wanted a change up. I wanted to look and feel a little different. But now I'm doing this whole Invisible Man Claude Rains thing going on here because I've been told by sources that it looks like ass, that it looks really bad. I'm a little self-conscious.
For those listening in the Apple Podcast Store, if you're listening in any of your podcast apps, you can go check us out on Substack at Between the Hash Marks and at the Two Deep Zone. You can check us out on YouTube at Matt Lombardo 975 to check out the video. I have not seen this grand reveal. I'm about to see a clean-shaven Mike Tanya for the first time right alongside everybody else. But if you're watching on video, I can't even prep you for what you're about to see because I haven't seen it myself.
First and only time, only my immediate family, neighbors have seen it, and don't get used to it. Here it comes. Do not get used to this.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay. It's like when Austin Powers lost his mojo. That's what happened to me. Not only did I lose my aura, but I lost my chin. I took off my chin. I Gilletted my chin off when this happened. I remembered why I grew the beard when I was 30. Well, I grew the beard when I was like 28, but then I shaved it to but I grew it when I was 35 and said, this is it. This is the end. Michael Allen Brewer is aghast.
Yeah, dude.
He's literally aghast.
I look at the logo for the Two Deep Zone, and it's you with the wizarding beard. This is like Rudolph without the red nose. This is like Springsteen without the E Street Band. This is like a part of you is now missing that you've decided to just shave off. Are we sure that I'm a phone call away? I look at you not just as a colleague and not just as a podcast co-host. We go back a decade plus of friendship, and they're on the road all the time. Like, is everything okay? You could have just called me if something is bothering you.
This was not a cry for help. I didn't do this in a hotel room and shave my head and eyebrows as well. I mean, I feel like Yertle the Turtle. That's what I feel like. I look in the mirror. I'm not pleased. Michael Allen Brewer says I look younger now. That's debatable. That is debatable. I will say that right now because I feel like my own uncle. What's going to happen is this is going to grow back at the speed of biology and of genetics. I am not shaving down here anymore. So folks, when we come back on, if we do another one, like maybe we do one next week because there's still free agency, whatever, you'll see the regrowth of the beard. I know you have other things going on in your life. I know you don't care that much, but it matters a lot to me. You will be able to see the progress of the beard as it returns to its gray and fuzzy glory. But
you just better hope that you can grow it back. You just better hope that it comes back in the same glory. Like here's a tip. When I used to grow like the 5 o'clock shadow, you shave it and it grows back a little bit. You shave it, it grows back more. You might need to maintenance this shaven face to facilitate the beard growth to come back and better than ever.
That's what you do to a small child's hair to make it grow in through. You got that from your Nana. That she probably shaved your head and had your mom shave your head so your hair grew in, Phil. And yes, when we were 14 and 15, I think we did do that.
Yes.
Yeah. at this point, with the testosterone in the system, sort of floating away into the ether, I'm going to get what I get out of this. But don't visit on me the possibility that it doesn't grow back in. I grew in the beard on the side in November and December. I am not too concerned about that. And if not, I'm just gonna I'm gonna get like a false Groucho beard, and I'm gonna go with that. I'll pencil one in.
Go get the hair transplant and get the beard reconstructed that way. Build it back better. Not grow it back, build it back.
Yes, build back better, grow plugs. I am not concerned. There's any stubble. I shaved on Monday morning. There's stubble now. We're on our way.
He's Mike Tanier. Make sure you follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. Subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack so that we can get him into a better place mentally, so he doesn't contemplate such significant changes without consulting people in the near future. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Matt Lombardo on Threads. I'm at Matt Lombardo NFL. You can check out Between the Hash Marks on Substack. And we have a huge, huge show. And I loved reading the column this morning, your recap of yesterday's moves. It's the podcast title today. Full disclosure, I lifted it from the column because I enjoyed it so much. Sitting back yesterday in the command center and watching over $1 billion get handed out by these teams in free agency, you wrote it best. It felt like the fireworks factory had exploded. That's what it felt like we were watching yesterday.
Was it really $1 billion?
Over, yes.
God. You put out like 2 articles, so you didn't mess around.
Yeah, I did if you want to check it out, they're up on the site right now. It's the 8 moves that I thought moved the needle for teams closer to a Super Bowl, or at least meaningfully contending. Some difference-making moves that I really liked. I loved the approach or the fit, something like that, kind of my analysis. And then I really dove deep on the Kenneth Walker signing, which maybe we'll get into during the podcast, maybe we won't, but reached out to a handful of scouts, talked to Joe Banner briefly, talked to Brian Baldinger when he got off air at like 11:30 last night to get his thoughts on Kenneth Walker landing with the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think that move really does elevate them. It's kind of the philosophy when I spoke about maybe for the last 2 or 3 weeks about them needing a running back alongside Patrick Mahomes. But those are the 2 stories that are up on the site right now.
Right, and those are huge moves, and I think we will talk about them a little bit. But yesterday was like that, where in the past, I remember sitting down for free agency starting and like Bleacher Report assigning me the job, and like Thursday would hit or Wednesday, whenever it hits at like 4:00, and nothing would happen. Like absolutely nothing would happen for days and days. And then tampering kicked in, and we all realized that we had to be ready for the start of tampering. Tampering was noon. We were waking up to news on Saturday morning, Max Crosby. Right. And then Monday morning at about 9:00, it's like by 9:00, because I walked the dog. Tua is released. Minkah Fitzpatrick is traded. Some of these early moves, there were some quick last-minute re-signings, and we're like, oh, so now there's pre-tampering. And then when noon hit, good Lord, it was like a fireworks factory exploded in our faces.
It really was. And as I wrote in the column on 4 Downs on Monday, you can go check that out as well. I spoke to a current general manager and 2 or 3 different agents, and they all, off the record, of course, told me that everything you see between like noon and 1 p.m. on Monday during the tampering window, forget the NFL's like tampering rules. Those were all done in Indianapolis. It was at the JW Marriott lobby. It was at Prime in the private booths or the private room in the back. It was at Harry and Izzy's when I got an invite from one of my sources on Friday of the Combine and had to break the news that I was snowed in and couldn't get there. I was bummed out about that, missing that lunch. But everything we saw yesterday, the reason those moves come out so fast and furious is everybody knew that they were coming. And I think we saw that when you saw the Bears not wait around to trade for Garrett Bradbury, or you saw Connor McGovern re-sign pretty quickly with the Buffalo Bills, because 2 teams that needed center help, they knew Tyler Linderbaum was off the board. The Ravens knew he was off the board, so they traded for Max Crosby. They didn't need to worry about the money there. And he goes to the Raiders. Everybody inside the league knew the worst kept secret, and we just found out about it at 12:01.
Right, and as a remind people, you need the tampering window. You need to set the speed limit at 65 so that when people are going 75 or 80, they know that they have to be a little bit careful. People are always going to go a little bit over the limit, and with tampering, people are always going to play around at the combine, but because the contracts do not really expire until Wednesday at noon, Thursday at noon, I've lost track of when, or 4 p.m., you have to have something in there so you aren't actively talking to a player who is still under contract in such a way that the team has not had a chance to at least communicate to them, it's time for you to go, your agent can go have this conversation. So there's a lot of fiction there that makes the league go, and we all wink at it. I know Florio looks a bit, oh my God, this is proof tampering exists. He was at the table. He was at the table. Mike, you were at the table. We all saw you. Okay, so
200 items on Tuesday
right.
live without knowing some of these things are coming and having them banked away. And what's fascinating is you talk to people on social media, you talk to fans out and about, and they're all amazed that the fact that even in the year 2026, a lot of this stuff doesn't happen in text messages. A lot of this doesn't happen on phone calls. It happens in Indy. It happens at the corner deli. It happens at the steakhouses because everybody's face to face. You don't have a paper trail either when you do it face to face.
Exactly right. There's no paper trail, and yeah, they can sort of hammer out multiple deals. Like they can talk about several players at once. That's really how it goes. And they have these sort of quiet. They go back to the hotel room or into the hotel, like whatever reception area sometimes, and they get this stuff done.
Absolutely. And the two teams that I think most people in our readership care a lot about are the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. I know you had them at the top of the outline. Two very, very different approaches, two very different outcomes so far.
Right. Eagles fans are maybe doing a little bit of this right now. Anticipation of any sort of A.J. Brown thing if it happens. The losses of Nakobe Dean, Jalen Phillips, Reed Blankenship, whoever that slot receiver was. I keep forgetting his name. So does Jalen Hurts. And not a lot coming in. Nothing coming in. Jordan Davis re-signing. You tell me there was whispers about Jalen Carter possibly getting shopped. You tell me he's not getting shopped?
Yeah, my sense is from people that I spoke to that he's not actively being shopped. And I just want to speak directly to Eagles fans real quick. So just kind of lean a little closer if you're an Eagles fan, maybe, turn up the AirPod a little bit. We did this exact same podcast at this time last year off a Super Bowl, and there was panic. Do you remember this? And I told Eagles fans to just relax, take a deep breath, right? There were a couple free agent losses. There were probably some whispers, I think, back then about Darius Slay wanting out. Relax. Because when teams draft as well as the Eagles do, you can't pay everybody. You don't have a blank check. We're going to get into the salary cap mattering, not mattering, being fake versus being real. But if you look at Howie Roseman's track record in just the most recent draft class, Nakobe Dean gets a mid to top of market deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. They drafted Jahad Campbell in the first round last year.
Yes.
Reed Blankenship got paid by the Houston Texans. There were a lot of noise going into this. The Cowboys are going to be involved because of Christian Parker's presence as the defensive coordinator there. But Reed Blankenship gets paid. They drafted Andrew Makuba last year.
Yeah.
They tend to draft very, very well, and they're forward thinking. They draft guys a year before their top line guys are about to hit free agency, and you have a lot of mouths to feed. They signed Jordan Davis to the extension. They're actively working on an extension for Jalen Carter, is my sense of things. You have to worry about Quinyon Mitchell. You have to worry about Cooper DeJean. You can't keep everybody, and they continuously restock the cupboard. But look at the Ravens. The Ravens, I think it's their 2021 draft class. There's not one single member still there. They all got cashed up and made like $50 million combined in free agency, probably a lot more than that. It happens. Take a breath. You don't need to overspend when you're drafting and developing as well as they do.
And that's it. So it boils down to, I think Jalen Phillips was somebody who was in the plan that the Eagles really wanted to keep. I think fans really wanted to keep. The Panthers paid him everything.
Yeah.
They think he's TJ Watt. And he's very good, but he's not TJ Watt. And that's, at some point, it's like you're going to get blown out of the water, just like the Raiders could blow everyone out of the water for Lindenbaum. The Jets seem to be blowing people out of the water for goofy players right now. So it is a little bit of a relapse. The Eagles' biggest problem right now is their offensive players still don't like each other at all. And that's the problem, not whatever's going on in free agency at the moment.
For sure. And I'm sure we'll get into the Jalen Phillips thing a little bit later when we talk about our winners and losers from a team perspective. But I know, and I heard this from multiple people, the feeling was that Jalen Phillips to the Eagles was going to get done. There was optimism on both sides that they were going to reach a deal. But then the Panthers come in with this $80 million fully guaranteed offer, and you're just not touching that, right? You're just not going to be able to touch that number. And
Right.
that's where this wasn't any sort of source reporting that I had, but as soon as the Jordan Davis extension got announced, that was my first thought of, oh wow, they might not be getting Jalen Phillips back because the money they had allocated to Phillips, they're now funneling into Jordan Davis. And I think that they're a spot that makes a lot of sense now for Trey Hendrickson. He's still out there. He's wanting like $30 million, I think, is the reporting. I don't know that anybody's going to give that, but if his number comes down and he wants to chase a ring alongside of Jalen Carter, I could see that being a fit, just like I could see the Raiders swooping in and paying him $30 million to play alongside the front seven they're building there.
Do you think there's a chance that the Eagles are holding a bunch of cap space in case they have to take an A.J. Brown dead money hit still?
That would not
That's
surprise
right.
me. That's
Right.
very possible because another thing that I had heard yesterday was that the Chargers were really in on Alec Pierce, that they went
Yes.
hard for Alec Pierce, but they weren't able to come up to the number that the Colts offered Alec Pierce, which they probably should have to put him
They
at the
could've.
top of that receiving core. They had the money to.
Mhm.
But if you lose out on Alec Pierce and you're heavy shopping at the top of the wide receiver market, there's an A.J. Brown sitting there. And A.J.
Yep.
Brown is a more well-balanced all-around receiver than Alec Pierce is. You put him there in that receiving core, now you're kind of talking.
Right. They're a potential suitor. I don't think the Patriots want to do a splash. The Patriots don't feel like they're in a splash mood, but they would still be out there. Giants, interesting day. Okay, so I'll restack a little bit. Isaiah Likely arrives. Tremont Edmonds, linebacker, arrives. They re-signed Jermaine Eluemunor at right.
Yeah.
Eluemunor at right tackle, who's turned into a pretty good right tackle for them. It's very rare for the Giants to develop a lineman, so they kept him, which is good. And then a couple of guys go out the door, and these aren't like massively exciting guys. Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think led them in receiving last year, Daniel Bellinger, their tight end, and Cordell Flott, who's been a pretty good little cornerback, all went to the Titans. They all went to the Titans. Brian Daboll kind of swooped in and like grabbed a bunch of guys on the way out the door and ran to the Titans with a bunch of guys. What's your take on the Giants right now?
I kind of like the moves. I mean, I think I like them more than what we're seeing in Philadelphia. Obviously, different philosophies, different situations. But Tremaine Edmonds, steady veteran linebacker, 61 total tackles last year, 4 interceptions, always around the football. And I know from people in Chicago, the Bears loved him. They loved him in that building. So he's a leadership type of guy too. I'm not losing sleep over losing Cordell Flott if I'm the Giants. He's kind of just a guy.
Right.
And you bring in Greg Newsome on a prove-it 1-year, $10 million potential deal. You're betting on traits, and you're also falling into the first-round pedigree theory. And you and I have talked about this. Like general managers and coaches, they see a guy chosen in the first round. They think, hey, I can get him, and I can get him in my building. He's going to be Greg Newsome. He's going to be the guy that I saw in college, right? So I like that. And I really love the Isaiah Likely signing. Athletic tight end. I loved him coming out of college, Coastal Carolina. Never quite grew out of Mark Andrews' shadow. Had a, up and down kind of career in Baltimore. But Matt Nagy plays 12 personnel a lot. I think it was 28 to 30% of snaps last year in Kansas City, top 12 in the league. And I think you're going to see a lot of Likely and Theo Johnson on the field together, 2 athletic pass catchers. And I think that's how you help your young quarterback, and you're getting Malik Neighbors back, which is kind of a free agent acquisition in its own right. So yeah, I can dig it. I can dig what they're doing. How about you?
Yeah, I like it overall. I'm not like over the moon. I feel like there's going to be a Jackson Dart plus Cam Scatterbo plus Malik Neighbors plus Isaiah Likely. Who can stop this? And I kind of need to see everybody on the field healthy simultaneously, which is not a thing that has ever happened. But it's forward momentum. I think Edmonds is an upgrade over Okereke, although, again, it's a linebacker upgrade. There's a little bit of that. I'm just looking at it now. They also grabbed Jordan Stout from the Ravens, and I'm just realizing now the Ravens traded Max Crosby for everything. It's now Lamar Jackson and Max Crosby playing and Derrick Henry playing like double star 3-on-3 basketball against the rest of the league, and I find that interesting. But yeah, the Giants, again, there's all this reason for optimism. You're going to be more optimistic for Harbaugh than you were for Daboll and all those goofballs there. You're bringing in guys. Wendell Robinson's a replaceable part, honestly. I think that the Titans went wackadoodle for him. And it's kind of like, yeah, you know why he got 125 targets? Because there was nobody else, man. There was nobody else. He's catching screen passes on 3rd and 10. That's what he's doing a lot of the time. So positive on the Giants and not like terrified or like shaking in the boots about what the Eagles have done or not done so far.
Yeah, I thought the Giants have moved the ball forward. The whole picture. And I talked to people last week for the mailbag on Friday, and a couple of agents told me that, the arrival of John Harbaugh, and more importantly, the name I keep hearing is Dawn Aponte, the new director of football analytics and strategy, and that she might be even a bigger asset in terms of that building, kind of transforming the culture and the vision and building it all. That there's some optimism there that within the span of a couple of off seasons, that they could be one of those teams that you talk about making a leap. I don't think it happens off of these moves alone. But if you get like a Sonny Styles and you draft him and you put him alongside Tremaine Edmonds, those are two really good inside linebackers with two really good edge rushers with an all-pro defensive tackle, maybe a better secondary. It just seems like they're acting like there's professionals at the wheel all of a sudden.
Yeah. And for the first time in years, we're not looking at the entire Giants story as their offensive line's a complete train wreck. You have to rebuild that. It's not a top 10 unit right now, but if you put the tackles in place, you put Runyon in place. I forget who's at center right now. It might be John Michael Schmitz, but you can turn that into that's a stable unit. Stable enough for a scrambling quarterback. Obviously, he's got to limit injuries. You can see the path forward for this team. I don't know if I saw the path forward throughout the Daniel Jones era, honestly.
I don't know that they saw the path forward for the Daniel Jones era.
That's the thing. Well, right. And when you have so much of those Dave Gettleman years, and you had the Judge years, and then you had the Daboll years, where it seemed like there was always some kind of turmoil in the front office or disagreement in the front office. You don't get that right now. And with Harbaugh, like you said, Aponte and the others, I don't know what Joe Sheen's situation. He might have something different to say about that than we do. But maybe he's in the wiping off of the weight room equipment job that Howie Roseman had when Chip Kelly was here. Who knows? And that might be a net benefit for the Giants.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be interesting to watch this draft for them because that seems to be, at least in title only, what Joe Shane's responsibilities are, is basically overseeing and running the scouting department. They kind of, Harbaugh and Shane are both on the same level playing field as far as who reports to John Mara. If they knock this draft out of the park and it becomes Shane's niche, more power to them. If it doesn't, well, then I think Harbaugh might flex some muscles going into next offseason a little bit.
And they're not drafting for need. I mean, I don't know if they ever really drafted for need, but there was always a desperate thing that they had to solve at the beginning of the draft. Now it's like, well, there is nothing super desperate about the Giants. They can go out there and get the best available athlete, get a Sonny Styles, add somebody else in the secondary if that's their want, maybe add an interior lineman in the second round, whatever. They can do things like that because they're not in this desperate circumstance.
For sure. Let's turn the page, go bigger picture, 30,000-foot view here. Best move of the day. Well, what stood out for you? What did you like the most?
Well, you got mad when I sent you the thing because I said I really liked the Malik Willis move, the signing by the Dolphins.
Mad. No, I know you liked it. I was coming to you. I legitimately meant it. And then I want to give you rationale for liking the move, but the bus stop at one of which is now a subscriber to Between the Hash Marks, friends of mine, offline, they were very curious about how the hell the Dolphins made this work against the cap. That you release Tua Tagovailoa, you eat $99 million for the privilege to tell him to go away, and you still go out and you throw all this money at Malik Willis. And I just need, because my argument to Bus Stop Neighbor is, the cap is fake. They found a way to manipulate the cap and make it happen and get a quarterback, and I like the move. I just need you to explain it to me so I can go back to my people and explain how the money worked with Malik Willis and the Dolphins.
Well, they're still working on that. Now, part of it is you have to trade Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Jets for a 7th-round pick. You have to erase his salary from the books in a way where you create cap space. I think they're still working on cap space. I don't know what the status of guys like Chubb, Austin Jackson. That's going to go away. Okay. The deal itself, Malik Willis's deal, is extremely modest. And his cap number is going to be very low for the first year of it. I think it was reported at 3 years, 65 or something like that. That's a pittance, and a lot of it is bonus money. So it's going to be year one, relatively affordable, and then year two, year three. At that money, why weren't the Cardinals interested? Why weren't the Steelers interested? Why weren't the Jets? Obviously, the Jets could do that standing on their head. They could top that by $10 million and say, come here. Maybe Malik Willis will say, ew, no. But if you say, is the Malik Willis deal going to get the Dolphins to the Super Bowl? No, nothing's going to get the Dolphins to the Super Bowl in 2026, probably not in 2027. Did they create an exit strategy for Tua that looks really good? That looks better than anything I thought they could? That they got the best young quarterback, probably the best quarterback option out there right now, including the draft. They did it. And they're still going to go with all the dead money they're going to take, because Tyreek Hill is dead money. They've got dead money everywhere. They're still going to go out there with Jaden Waddle and Devon Achane. Yeah, they've got a pretty good left tackle. They've got a pretty good center. They had to lose their right tackle. That's another guy they had to let go of to do this. You can kind of build an adequate line. Willis can run, so yeah, that's going to help. They're going to be watchable, and they're going to be competitive, and they did not break the bank for 5 years to invest in a guy who's had like 110 career pass attempts since he left the Titans.
And I really like the fit. I like it, obviously, from an organizational comfort and familiarity standpoint, with John Eric Sullivan, the GM, coming from Green Bay, Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator with the Packers, coming to Miami. I love the fit in that regard. I love the fact that, you look at the offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, they're going to run a run-based scheme with Devon Achane, which Malik Willis, that's kind of what he did when he got on the field for Matt LaFleur. They didn't ask him to overexpose himself all that much. And when he did, he had some nice moments, which is why you cashed in here. The fact that they can make the money work, that's one of the biggest wins across the league this offseason, in my opinion. And look, you have at least 2 years to evaluate him, I'm assuming, before he gets really expensive. And if it doesn't go well, you're going to be picking at the top of the draft. There's nothing prohibiting you from taking Arch Manning or whoever the quarterback is next year, right? So if the money works, I love it. When you said in the outline, I was just like, okay, as a public service, I need someone who understands the cap more than I do, admittedly, explaining to me how this was possible with the Tua dead money and the Chubb dead money and all that lingering out there.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and there was an update on overthecap.com. Tua's $99 million hit is... No, wait, it's still not on there the way it's supposed to be. They're currently not cap compliant, so they're going to have to make other moves. Okay, from what I see here, again, Bradley Chubb seems like a guy who's going to go away. So it doesn't work out, but nothing else they were going to do is going to work out anyway. But what's your best move?
Yeah, I really like Kobe Bryant going to the Bears, the safety from the Seahawks. I liked a lot of the moves that a lot of the teams made yesterday, honestly. I mean, I wrote eight things I liked, right? But the move I think we're going to talk about next February that was a springboard for a team is Kobe Bryant going to the Bears. Because you had C.J. Gardner-Johnson out there as a free agent safety. Jaquan Brisker is out there as a free agency. I know there's some optimism that they're going to try to bring Kevin Byard back, right? And I like a lot of what Ryan Poles has done. I can get on board with Garrett Bradbury as a quick fix for Drew Dalman retiring. But, Kobe Bryant was so clutch for Seattle, especially down the stretch last year and in the playoffs. Intercepted 4 passes. Quarterbacks only had a 78.4 passer rating when throwing his direction. And this is a dude that just throws his weight around up at the line of scrimmage. Good against the run. You can send him on safety blitz concepts off the edge. And if they can bring Byard back, you got 2 ball hawks at safety. Where are you throwing it to? 2 veteran presences. They needed to build out their defense. They obviously had a lot of momentum last year with Caleb Williams rebuilding the offensive line overnight. The young pass catchers like Luther Burden, Roman Dunze, Colston Loveland. You needed to fix the defense. And I thought that Kobe Bryant was a glue type of player to get that started.
He's like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but not a total a-hole.
Yes, without the
Like what?
attitude.
Yeah, what if we could get this production, but his teammates don't hate him, and we have to trade him maybe after about 6 months. Instead, you get a younger version of this who can come in and sort of be like at least decent for your culture. Bayard should be able to get back in a 1-year deal. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for Bayard at his age. That's his best fit. Poles and the Bears are operating with a lot of confidence right now.
Yeah, I think it's
Trading
earned.
DJ. Yeah, I think it's earned. Turning DJ Moore away is like, no, we're happy with these receivers. We know where this is going. We kind of outgrew this particular guy. Losing Dahlman was unexpected because he retired their center. They bring in Bradbury fast. You're right. That's a quick fix. They'll probably create competition. Maybe they'll use one of the second-round picks on an interior lineman. But they are a team that's moving very comfortably, and that's something you like to see as a team starts rising.
Yep, and you look at them, I think their biggest remaining need is edge rusher, and there's still some pretty good ones out there, and they could package. You talk about using one of those second-round picks to get an interior lineman. You could package your first-round pick and one of those seconds to move up 5 or 6 spots if there's a pass rusher that starts to slip down the board a little bit in the
Right.
first round to get somebody cheap to put opposite Montez Sweat. Or you just say, you take the Rams approach and you say, F it, we're going to throw a boatload of money at Trey Hendrickson. We're going to have Hendrickson and Montez Sweat. And now you're talking about a team, and I think they might have already started to do this anyway. You can correct me if you think I'm kind of making a leap here. I think that they've already started to create separation in the NFC North. You get a guy like Hendrickson and with Bryant, and it just feels like you're kind of cementing yourself as, all right, we won the division a year early last year. Come get us now.
They're creating separation right now because they're proceeding with confidence. The Packers are a mess.
We will get to them, sir. We will get to them.
We'll get to them. So I'll sit up on that. The Lions are like, oh my God, all of our offensive linemen got old at once. Some retired. Some we said smell you later. And we're bringing in whoever we can get. So you're in a good position there to say, oh, we're not panicking and trying to save cap space. They could probably fit Hendrickson in. They could find somebody like that. They could bring a Bosa in potentially to be like the Mr. Ring Chaser. Not a bad place to be for the Bears overall.
Who was your biggest winner as a team?
Rams. Starts last week. They get McDuffie. Then they bring in Jaden Watson, who was the other cornerback or one of the other cornerbacks in the Chiefs. So they take the Chiefs cornerback. They add them to their lineup, which is strong everywhere but cornerback. And quietly, they also extended Cameron Curl with their safeties. So their secondary has gone from weakness to strength. And they also extended Tyler Higbee very quietly. So that whole thing they're doing on offense where it's like, well, we got a bunch of tight ends. We play like 3 tight ends a lot of times. And that creates all these opportunities in the running game. And then Puka goes deep. Devontae Adams goes deep. They've kept all that together. And they were the second best team in the NFL. Second best team in the NFL with 2 needs, secondary and kicker, and secondaries off the board. Big win. I think they'll find a kicker. They'll find a kicker somewhere. And that they're going to be the team to beat, I think, in the NFC, even now, just on March 10th.
I agree. And I have a different team because I just wanted some diversity here.
Yeah.
But I was all in on the Rams. And right. I loved what they did with the McDuffie trade. I loved rounding back and getting Watson. It feels like that they are in a legitimate arms race. They saw the secondary buckle in the fourth quarter of that NFC Championship game. They saw all the cap space they were sitting on. Les Snead got into his F them picks era t-shirt and he said, you know what? F it. We are not letting that happen again. We are not relying on that secondary against Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold, not with our edge rushers that we've collected and we've developed, not with Matthew Stafford maybe in his final season. We're going for it. We're going all in. I love the approach and I love the results early on. So I'll get to my team, but I like the Rams. And I love your analysis of it too.
Absolutely. Like the Rams, it's not just Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. It's whatever the 49ers put out there, which we'll get to in a minute. It is Luther Burden and Rome Odunze. It could be A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. It could be C.D. Lamb and George Pickens. They got to be ready for the arms race. No, they are. And it's not F them picks because they still have the Falcons' first-round pick. Yeah. They can still pick best player available and get a stud in the middle of the first round.
That's a great point because when I wrote my breakdown of the McDuffie move, I just assumed that the Chiefs insisted on getting pick number 14.
They
got Trey McDuffie for number 29.
Yes. Right. There's nobody at 20
roster, and you're at 14.
Right? There's nobody at 29 who's going to be as good as Trent McDuffie. Of course, the Chiefs were moving salary around, moving cap space around. They knew Kelsey was coming back, or were pretty sure Kelsey was coming back, so that's one of the reasons they make the move. But the Rams are sitting there like, hey, we got what you need right here. Extra draft picks, cap space. Give us your 26-year-old Pro Bowl cornerback, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you're now cap compliant, and we're gonna kick some ass over here. Try not to like choke me through the feed here when I give you the team that I picked.
It better not be the Jets, man.
It's the Panthers.
All right.
It's Carolina. It's Carolina.
Okay.
And it's a ton of money. But really, who cares about money, right? Because the cap is fake. All these deals can get reworked and restructured. The money can get moved around. Who cares? Jaelan Phillips, top free agent edge rusher, come on down. They had to overpay there because he was going back to Philly. He was going to be an Eagle again. They had to overpay, and they got him. And you get to plant him alongside Derek Brown, who's just a game wrecker as a run stuffer, interior pass rusher. I think that he's a guy that you can look at both Jaelan Phillips and Derek Brown feeding off each other, winding up as Pro Bowlers next year. And then last night, tucking my daughter into bed, and they signed Devin Lloyd. Mm-hmm. You get Devin Lloyd, who's like linebacker 1 or linebacker 2, elite in coverage, flies to the football, good as a blitzer, brings an attitude to that defense. And I just look at the rest of the NFC South, and I think we're both kind of optimistic, kind of going in on the personnel of the Falcons a little bit. But like Carolina won that division, and they got by because of the investment in Bryce Young paying off. Teteroa, McMillan, big investment on the offense. Jalen Coker overperforming, big investment there. Ike Ekwonu, first-round pick, a lot of assets go to the offense. I think that they're building out a defense they can win with, especially in that division, in that front seven. Again, I don't care about money. I care about what the players are, and I think they got some damn good players.
Lloyd's a heck of a player. My concern with the $120 million, I haven't done any deep dives on the Panthers cap space, so I don't know how much of that money's real. First of all, there were a lot of edge rushers coming in with much smaller numbers than that, so you could have gotten 2 of them maybe. You could have gotten Boye Mafe and Draymond Jones. I have no idea. That money suggests that the Panthers think of Jaelan Phillips as like the missing piece and the cornerstone, and he's instant dozen sacks guy, and he had 5 sacks last year across 2 teams. He's not instant dozen sacks guy. So you're signaling that this is the big move, and you're not a big move team. You're like, you're a still building team. That's my concern with the Panthers. Still a heck of a player. Devin Lloyd, he comes in at linebacker. You get this all-purpose linebacker. I think the NFC South should be disbanded. I think it should be relegated to the ACC. And doing the best move so far in that division is still doing the best move so far in that division. That's my
what we should do when it's like the middle of May and my family's like arguing at me to get off the podcast and like go to the pool. We should do a quick podcast. We should do an NFC South draft, you and me. We should pick it. Both of us pick our all-star teams off of the NFC South. And we'll put it to the people to vote on which of us picked the better squad.
You can't make a Super Bowl team out of those 4 rosters. No. You cannot. Baker Mayfield, especially right now. Baker Mayfield at quarterback. Okay, Bijan at running back. You can make a strong playoff team.
Drake London's pretty good.
Is Drake London your wide receiver? To him and Tet are your receivers? I got Olave. Him, Tet, and Olave are your receiving core. I'm not blown away by that. No. I'm sorry. I'm not. It's like you put that up against the Rams, and I'm like, I'll take the Rams.
Which is why, if you're just trying to win that division and make the playoffs every year, you build up your defense and you build up your front seven to terrorize Tyler Shuck and terrorize Baker Mayfield and terrorize Michael Penix Jr. because I don't want to see Tua play because I don't want to see him concussed, right? Like
you terrorize Michael Penix by making loud noises. Oh my God, what's going on? He will never live that down for me. No. They clapped at the wrong time, and it confused me in the 4th quarter of a game that was a game. You will never live that down. You have to win a Super Bowl, Michael Penix, to live that down to me. I'm sorry.
All right, we've talked about the top of the market moves. Who are the little guys? Who are the smaller market moves you liked?
I liked a bunch of the little moves. I like little moves in general. One I decided to talk about, we talked about the Lions earlier. I think we're going to talk a little bit about that division over and over again. They're in this messed up situation where everyone retired. they haven't spent a lot of money, but they brought in Cade Mays at center, Larry Borom at right tackle, and at guard they brought in Juice Scruggs. These are not phenomenal players. I think they have more building to do, but Borom can play. And Mays can play when he's healthy, which is seldom. He is like always got like 5 different injuries going on. They're doing what they need to do without spending a ton of money to rebuild that line. And I contrast that with teams like the Browns, who are right now spending hand over fist to get like the most second-rate linemen in the world. I look at the Chargers, who seem like they want to create another offensive line catastrophe next year. And at least the Lions are making smaller moves, reasonable moves to bring guys in who, if they stay healthy, are going to make that line next to Penei Sewell still capable and make it still like playoff caliber.
Yeah.
Huh? Little move.
I get behind it. I can get behind it.
What do you got?
I buy the argument there. I went with Charlie Kolar, the blocking tight end signing for the Chargers, because they don't really play big that often. They're really a one tight end set type of a team because they have Rondé Gadsden, really good emerging star pass catching player there. But Kolar's the top blocking tight end in the sport. He also caught 10 passes last year, including 2 touchdowns. And Lamar Jackson and Snoop Huntley had a 119.2 passer rating when throwing at him. And he's a guy, when you talk to teams going into free agency, he's a name that I kept hearing that teams really liked, that they liked him as a leader. They liked the work ethic. They liked him as a blocker. They think there's a little bit of pass catching upside that they can tap into. And maybe that is a nice, secondary payoff for the Chargers. But the big payoff is if Joe Alt gets hurt again, or Rashawn Slater gets hurt again, you're now better equipped to go big and plop, Charlie Kolar on either side of that line where you need him to, and you're not just sticking a chipping fullback in there or, your undrafted free agent tight end that you're trying to develop in there as a blocker. You got a damn good blocking tight end that you're putting there kind of to protect Herbert. So I think it fills a need. It's a reaction to what happened last year. And if he gives you anything in the passing game more than he showed in Baltimore, kind of, outplays the contract a little bit there.
He's a good system fit for what they do there. And once again, the Ravens are going to be Max Crosby, Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry playing 3-on-3 basketball. You just start naming guys who have kind of disappeared out the back door in the last couple of days. And I wonder, like, if you're losing all these rank and file guys, why, and you lost these draft picks, why'd you bring in Max?
Yeah.
Right. So you can't keep your blocking tight end. You can't keep your punter. You can't keep your punter. But you brought in,
and he was a good punter too. And I'm not saying that because he's a Penn State kid. He was a field position flipper for them. I mean, he was a legitimate field position weapon.
Really?
And I mean, I guess Harbaugh being special teams guy, Baltimore Ravens guy, you can understand like overpaying for that in New York, but if you were going all in, and I thought that this was kind of the all-in move going for Max Crosby, but you lost so much. You lost so much about what had you in the mix in the first place.
Right, yeah, and you say, oh, you can always get another punter. You can always get another blocking tight end. You can always get some of these defensive linemen who they lost. They're going to lose Keaton, the running back. They didn't tender him like at the low level that they had to do. And it's like, at some point, all these resources, when you don't have a lot of cap space, all of your late round picks are going to be going to these guys, which means you're not going to be able to like fill the bigger needs around your very top heavy, very superstar heavy, top of the marquee roster.
And the picks. And the 2 first-round picks.
And you're not the first rounder.
You're talking about the same calamity that the Colts are sitting in without a first-round pick either of the next 2 years. Now, granted, you have Lamar Jackson, and at some point you're going to rework that deal. At some point you're going to remortgage that house, and maybe you're going to be able to go shopping this year in free agency or next year. And I still think that Crosby's presence makes them the prohibitive favorites in the AFC North. What are you beyond that? Like, what are you? Sure, you can maybe you beat the Patriots because you can rattle Drake May. The Texans tried that; it didn't work. They still lost. Right? Maybe you can beat Houston in a playoff game. Maybe you beat Aaron Rodgers, in a wild card round. I don't know, but it just feels like you let so much talent walk out the building, especially Linderbaum, right? Because if we talk about Lamar Jackson getting banged up or the effectiveness of Derrick Henry, you lose an elite center like Linderbaum, you've kind of chipped away at your offense for the sake of going and getting a top-flight edge rusher who you hope is still a top-flight edge rusher at this point.
That's it. When you start taking all those rank-and-file guys out, I start saying, are they that much better than the Steelers? I don't know. Assuming Rodgers comes
I'm
back
so
or whatever.
bearish on them. I'm so bearish on Pittsburgh. I
That's
really am.
that's fine. That's fine, but they have like a coherent roster if they get their
Yeah.
quarterback. You know, if the Bengals figure out how to like get a little bit of a defense, are you that much better than them? When we say we don't know who your center is right now, we don't know how the rest of your defense plays out. The tight end room is gutted around Mark Andrews, the oldest guy.
Yeah.
You know, when you start throwing those things in, we're basically saying, well, if we line up the top 4 guys on the roster, you definitely win. That's no question. It's everything after that is in such flux, and you have a new coach. I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, my most confusing move.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Daniel Jones. This whole
Yes.
how they manage this. So how Chris
Yeah.
Ballard did all of this, because you're basically playing chicken with the Steelers and now
The
the
Jets.
Jets,
You're
who
playing.
have all the money in the world to spend, right? And you decided not to use the franchise tag, but use the transition tag, which means he can sign elsewhere to an offer sheet, and you get Ugats if you don't match it. Whereas the franchise tag, you would get 2 first-round picks, so nobody's matching that. And the whole Daniel Jones situation. This report that comes out, I think it was from Albert Breer, that his
Mm-hmm.
agents were looking for $50 million a year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
look for it, fine. But I think everybody
Yeah.
saw what happened at halftime in Arrowhead, even before the injury in
Right.
Jacksonville and the game against the Texans in between that. The whole Daniel Jones saga fiasco is one that I just don't want to live through. I pity the Colts for having to live through it. And I do wonder if the Jets or the Cardinals come in and say, hey, we like Daniel Jones. We're going to sign him to this deal, and we're going to make you pay through the nose to match it. You got Alec Pierce, but you lost Michael Pittman and you lost Daniel Jones, and you might have to turn back to Anthony One Eye Richardson. And I don't know what's going to happen.
Left Eye Richardson. The thing with asking $50 million, well, when the franchise tag is like $42 million or whatever it is, you're only asking for a little more than the franchise tag. And again, that's a ridiculous number for Daniel Jones. But hey, what's your plan B, Colts? And they were like, I guess we franchise you, and then they transition you. Think about the concept of playing chicken with the Jets. Remember what playing chicken really is. Playing chicken is driving as fast as possible at another car. Now, you shouldn't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, never play actual chicken with anybody. But you usually have to size up the other person and say, is this person a screaming lunatic with a death wish? They're the Jets. They are the, like, you don't care. You know, they're the ones that you say, I don't even want to get into the car with them. And you're going to play chicken with them, where somebody gets a wild hair, whether it's one of the Rick Johnson or Squib Johnson or somebody like that, or whoever is like, hey, we could offer him. We have this cap space, $50 million for 3 years, 150 guaranteed for Daniel Jones, and you're the Colts sitting there saying, that's dumb. Yeah, it's dumb. They're the Jets. Now you don't have a quarterback. You have nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to happen. But you, just like you don't think the other person's going to smash their car into you when you play chicken.
Right. And if you're the Jets, and you're basically now, after losing out on Malik Willis or never going all in on Malik Willis, you're basically now looking around a pretty barren quarterback market, right? You're looking at, you're picking second in a 1 quarterback draft. Might even not be a 1 quarterback draft, but he's the only one with a first round grade or anything close to it. And you're looking at Kyler Murray over here on the veteran minimum, who might want to go and rehab under Kevin O'Connell. You're looking at Geno Smith, right?
Yeah.
Like,
bringing him back.
You're talking about, do I want Geno Smith for a year to bridge to Arch Manning, and I'm actually going to tank? Or, or do you look at Daniel Jones and say, I have more money than God this year and next year. I have to spend to the salary cap floor. Let me bring in Daniel Jones, evaluate him, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, he's a high-priced backup for a year, and I can draft Arch Manning because I'm going to be terrible. Like, pick a lane. You have options that the Colts now don't have.
Yeah, the saving grace for the Colts is that Mary's out there, and it's so much cheaper. That's like, well, you might as well just get Murray rather than having to do that. Kyler Murray for 2 years at $30 million total or something like that, and you roll, and that sort of saves the Colts from that kind of the Joker has decided to explode Arkham type scenario that you might get with the Jets. But I think the Jets are just going to draft Ty Simpson. That's what I think. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm feeling. And it's terrible. It's a disaster. Anyway, I think we have the Jets coming up in a minute here because I have them on the list here.
I was so optimistic. We'll get to that. But what's your most confusing move? I'm ready for this.
Why on earth would the 49ers get an injured 30-something-year-old wide receiver? Are they trying to complete the set of injured old guys? Of course, they signed Mike Evans, so they bring him in. Mike Evans played only 8 games last year. When he played, he really did not look like his old self overall. It's not like he didn't have his moments, but if you start looking at a snap-by-snap basis on a team that had a lot of other weapons, he was not coming down with as many balls, not getting open as much. He goes over to the factory of injuries, and of all the teams that should have said, what's the tower called? I couldn't remember the name of it. The transformer?
Old transformer next door to the practice field.
Right. Yeah, it's a Chernobyl. They're taking an injured guy and they're taking him to America's Chernobyl, the 49ers. And of all the teams that should have said, everything's going to be about youth and injury history because we're not doing this again. It's the 49ers. They bring in a guy who can hang around the MRI machine with George Kittle and Trent Williams. If Trent Williams comes back, I don't get it at all. It's an absolute head scratcher.
The only reason that I kind of get it is because their receiving corps fell off a cliff last year, and Brandon Ayuk decided to just like peace out. Like he didn't want to take things anymore. Right. Ricky Pearsall gets banged up, and we talked about I think we talked about this going into the championship game that they, their blocking receivers just didn't live up to it. Maybe Evans contributes a little bit in that regard. They see some sort of fit there. But, people kind of came at me on social media. They were like, oh, of course, when I reported on Sunday after talking to folks that the sense in the league was that he wanted to go somewhere with an elite quarterback and a roster that can win a championship. And people were like, oh, well, doesn't every wide receiver want to do that? No, dude, go look at it. How many receivers just chase the bag? Go look at all the guys who just want to get paid. Evans figured out a way to get both. He got $60 million coming off that injury history to play with the 49ers, with Christian McCaffrey, with George Kittle, with Brock Purdy. It's a win-win for Evans. He got to do both. But there are receivers who just decide, hey, I just want to get paid, man. Show me the money.
Some of them want to get paid, or some of them. Who's that?
Tyreek Hill, for example, with the Dolphins.
Right. I want to get paid, or I want 175 targets which usually means getting paid as well. But also, it's like the ego type of thing. Evans has nothing else to prove in this world, so I mean, him finding more professional satisfaction, that's great. He's going to catch 21 passes. He's going to sign a 1-day contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next year to retire as a Buccaneer. I think he's already in the Ring of Honor. I think he is the Ring of Honor. And then we'll start talking about Canton in 6 years. But Again, I know why he did it, and you're right. Like there is a degree of we need more receivers. There's nobody younger.
Back.
Oh gosh. Well, how about John Jennings? I think he wants out.
Yeah.
He wants out. He might be an example of a guy who says, "I want to get paid now. I went all the way up to the Super Bowl and did all this stuff. Money, please."
Yes, give me the bag.
Yes, bag, please.
That's what we're going to see in the next couple of days. You're going to see guys who are that second-tier free agents, not the big names. You're going to see the bag man show up. You're going to see the bag man show up at the front doors.
So, for example, for the Eagles, Goddard didn't get moved right away. He's looking for a bag man, I think, at this point. Got a Super Bowl ring, had all these accolades and everything like that. And maybe he wants to go someplace. Yeah, and maybe fuck you, pay me. And maybe he wants to go someplace where everyone doesn't hate each other. That's also a possibility. But that's what we're getting to with some of these guys. I want to hear your worst move.
This one was a layup for me. And when it came across the wire yesterday morning, I was like, what the hell are they thinking? It's the Rashawn Gary trade. Because I'm sorry, I don't get it. I don't get it. The numbers say that he's still productive, 7.5 sacks last year. He's top 20 in quarterback hits and quarterback pressures. Packers fans came at me yesterday on Blue Sky. I want to suggest that he's still a productive player because they thought that he had lost a step or he slowed down or whatever. But last I checked, pressures and hurries turn into sacks. They might not be your sacks, but pressures and hurries, you'll flush him out of the pocket. And Micah Parsons is right there. You're racing to the quarterback with Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons was a transformational impact there. Who are you replacing? Who are you replacing Rashawn Gary with? Lucas Van Ness? guy who's a first round bust that you can't get out of the door quickly enough, played 9 games last year, underachieved his entire career, right? Maybe they sign Arnold Ebiketie today. Maybe they're picking a guy in the second round that they want to develop. They don't have a first round pick. So you're not going and getting one of these premier edge rushers where there's only like 2 or 3 any in this class. When Micah Parsons gets back, yeah, he's great. He's transformational. But who's on the other side and who's forcing the quarterback to Micah Parsons? I just think even if Rashawn Gary lost a step, I feel like you made yourself weaker at a vitally important position by trading him.
I think to a degree, Gary lost his want to a little bit.
His give a crap.
His give a crap was fading a little bit. He has 0 sacks and very few pressures after Micah Parsons went down when they needed him. He's kind of gotten a little bit of that reputation there. It's like, oh, he'll get you this big splashy sack when it's the backup offensive lineman or the backup quarterback, etc. But like he could have really done amazing things with Parsons and didn't. Here's who the Packers have lost so far in the last 2 days or whatever. Okay, Malik Willis, backup quarterback, we knew he was going, whatever. Rashawn Gary, big salary, older guy, was their second best edge rusher. Okay. Kingsley Enagbare, he's at the Jets now. That's their third best edge rusher.
Yeah.
Quay Walker, really athletic linebacker. They brought in Zaire Franklin, so okay, there's a little bit of just, well, tit for tat there. They released Nate Hobbs. Big splashy addition before they got Parsons. Never worked out. They tried to move positions with the guy. That didn't work out. Elgton Jenkins.
One of the few really big misses by Brian Gutekunst, by the way.
Yeah.
That was a change up down the middle, and you decided you were swinging for the fences, eyeing a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. It just did not work out with Nate Hobbs.
It did not.
I don't mind them moving on from Hobbs. I kind of like Zaire Franklin coming in there, but yeah, Elgton Jenkins, they moved off of him too, right? The list keeps going.
Getting Franklin, they had to lose Colby Wood, and he's kind of just a guy. 672 snaps on their defensive line. The defensive line that just lost Gary and Enagbare. So you talk about the cap being fake. The cap isn't fake, but it's like this big amorphous thing that you like the ramifications are over here, not right here. This isn't just cap. There's people they don't like anymore in Green Bay. This sounds like we were done with Gary. I think that Jenkins, by the end of his career, when they moved him to center and he was like, I need more money if I play center, I think they were a little done with him. I don't think Hobbs was exactly what they wanted. I think there was a little bit of some of these guys have been here a couple of years too long, have gotten a little too frustrated or set in their ways, one or the other, and so they're moving them. It just doesn't make the Packers better because they needed to. Gary's addition by subtraction. There's nobody waiting in the wings. The guy waiting in the wings was Enagbare, and I guess Van Ness, but Van Ness has done nothing. He's done nothing.
They're debating whether or not to pick up the 5th-year option on Van Ness, to the best of my understanding. Like, he might walk for a comp pick next year, right?
Better do it now. You don't have anybody else. Better do it there.
And to be fair about the Rashawn Gary thing, I don't think that he's the missing piece in Dallas either.
No,
I think that he's just a guy that you put there and you're still trying to fix the pass rush. You're still trying to replace Micah Parsons, and the Packers don't have a first-round pick. Packers don't have a first-round pick because of the Micah Parsons trade. So it's like you weakened yourself and you don't have the ability to go and get who you need to upgrade there.
Right. It's similar to what we were talking about a moment ago with the Ravens. It's like you don't have enough resources to just throw away 672 snap starters or rotation guys. You can't do that. Oh, and the Cowboys had the same guy last year named Jadeveon Clowney. Very Gary-like, where he's big, he's a handful, he will splash. It's like you better make sure that he knows the next paycheck depends on this paycheck. Otherwise, he kind of wanders off and starts walking around saying, I'm Jadeveon Clowney. Look at me. I'm awesome. I was the first overall pick in like 1887 or whatever that was. I got 2 worse moves.
Okay.
One is the Saints signing Travis Etienne because the Saints are just out of cap hell and they have money again. And they went and just got Alvin Kamara 2.0. They paid about as much for him as the Chiefs paid for Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is a more dynamic player. And also the Chiefs are the Chiefs and can get good again right away while the Saints are the Saints. And also the Jets who have gone out of their way to get 1,000,000 years old. Okay. So you bring in Minkah Fitzpatrick. Okay, that's a tone setter. I get it. You bring in Demario Davis, who's 37, literally 37 at linebacker. Okay, that's a tone setter. You bring in David Omanyata from the Falcons, who's 33, I believe. How many tone setters do you need? We don't need tone setters anymore. We don't need leaders. Need youth, guys who might be good in 2 years. They spent an unbelievable amount of money on these things. They also brought in Enagbare, who was kind of like a role player. Like, what is this? Are we just spending that money to spend money in Florham Park?
Yeah, and I was really optimistic about the Jets going into this offseason with all of that cap space.
Yes.
I really thought that you could go shopping at the top of the market. You could go and pluck a Trey Hendrickson and throw the bag at him. You know, you could go and you could bring in Jaquan Brisker or you at safety. And I like the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade in a vacuum, and I think there's value there getting for a 7th-round pick. You need to spend up to the floor anyway to get NFLPA compliant. It's fine. It's a fine move. But again, you said it. Joseph Asai might be the best pickup as an edge rusher, but I don't know that he's anything more than is he a 3-down player at this point? I don't know. Maybe you go and you get Romeo Doubs and you drop him opposite of Garrett Wilson, and that, moves your offense forward. But you didn't get the quarterback who you thought that you could get. You're kind of left swaying wandering through the wilderness there, and you didn't get younger, like you said. It just felt like this was the opportunity with all of the resources they had to jumpstart and do what smart franchises do, what the Patriots did last year, what we've seen the Eagles do in free agency, what we see the Ravens do at times in free agency, especially the Derrick Henry move a couple years ago, what the Chiefs are doing, what the Packers did with Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs in the same offseason. And it just seems like maybe I was projecting a little bit more football savviness on an organization that has spent generations proving that it has none of it, regardless of who's sitting in the power chairs in that building.
You should never assume with the Jets that they're actually following professionalism and competence, because they wouldn't have been in a situation where they had the extra draft picks and the money if they had ever pursued professionalism and competence up to that point. For me to have been excited about that team with all the money and draft picks, they would have had to say, oh, and we've brought in, I have no idea. Like, we brought in whoever Sean McVay's clone or something like that, and they're going to run things. When it was like, oh, we're bringing back the same guys and we're going to do the same stuff. This is not trending in the right direction for them.
Are Joseph Asai and Demario Davis better than Quinnen Williams? I don't think so. Right. And I think your defense is better with Sauce Gardner. Then you're going to have to nail the picks now. You're going to have to nail both first-round picks.
Yeah.
It's just non-negotiable because you didn't do yourself enough favors this free agency class to justify that trade, in my opinion. You talk about the Trey Hendrickson, the Max Crosby trade potentially being a great win-win for both teams because it allowed the Raiders to go get these top-of-market guys, building around a young quarterback coming in, the Ravens going all in. This could be a lose-lose. At the time, it felt like everybody got what they wanted. The Colts, a cornerback to maximize a window with Daniel Jones playing above his head with a deep playoff run within reach. Now, they don't have first-round picks.
Right.
And the Jets are going to have to struggle to replace a top 15 cornerback in Sauce Gardner. Right? Like, it just seems like that's a lose-lose trade to me.
Right. They have nothing there that's going to replace him. They've now lost both Williamses. And so, like, they're an expansion team, and they're grabbing all the old guys that usually you bring in as an expansion team to kind of keep the roof over your head for a year. It's ridiculous. I want to compare that to the Raiders right now, where when you talk about Linderbaum, you say, okay, this is a 26-year-old starting center who's been a Pro Bowler 2 or 3 years in a row. Foundational piece. This team gets good again halfway through this year or the beginning of next year. This is a guy who's there for a while. Quay Walker, did you overpay for Quay Walker? I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers exactly there. You know that this is a starting linebacker, 26 years old, that you can keep around until he's good. They brought in Kwity Paye. So they made an addition there. There's someone that they got. They traded for Deron Johnson. I'm missing somebody, though.
Nakobe Dean, another linebacker.
Nakobe Dean. Okay, so now we know what their linebacker room looks like with these two guys. And again, he's 27, I believe. Young, maybe they've overpaid, but like they've got nothing to spend money on now that Max Crosby's gone. Get these guys in. Jets are doing almost the opposite. Everyone's over 30. Everyone's over 32. Okay, they're not going to be there when things are better. Raiders have a plan at quarterback. Jets do not. Okay, it's amazing. Even the Raiders right now are lapping you in terms of like the acumen of football.
There's a professionalism like we touched on with the Giants with the way the Raiders are doing things right now because defensively you're building from the middle of the defense outward with that linebacking core. You're going to
Mhm.
draft Fernando Mendoza. Look no further than
Yeah,
what the Bears did last year. You sign the top free agent center, you get two interior
yes,
linemen, you get a tackle, and next thing you know, your quarterback goes from getting sacked 68 times to 24 times his second year. And if you're in Vegas, you have Ashton Genty, who God bless him if he got half a yard before contact last year. You're
right,
drafting a
right.
Pro Bowl caliber center in front of him
Yes,
to kind of untap the potential you saw in him coming out of Boise State. It just seems like there's a plan and a vision, and the money doesn't matter. Kind of like the Panthers, they had 160 million in cap space after the Crosby trade this year, 250 million dollars in cap space next year as things stood after trading Crosby. So they had to spend money,
yeah,
and they did it at the top of the market, which I thought what the Jets were going to do. And you're
right.
just collecting guys in Florham Park, is what it feels like.
You can front load a contract for some of these people. So
Yeah,
the cap problem won't be a problem in 2 years because we paid you in base salary up front that year when we had all that money. We gave it to you. So don't have these goofy cap numbers at the end. We can keep you an extra year. They also extended Colton Miller, their left tackle. He was hurt almost all of last year. He's played at a Pro Bowl level before that. So you can look at them and say, okay, left tackle's probably set. Center is now absolutely set. You can build an offensive line around the other three positions without that much money. They do have guys like Franklin Powers Johnson, other guys that they could bring in there. It's not dire. Jets are still dire.
very dire. Now, the Jets were my worst team, my biggest head scratcher. What
Okay.
was the biggest team loser for you yesterday from what we've seen so far?
Unfortunately, and to bring the mood down, I had to go with the Falcons, not because of Tua, but because the word came out of the James Pierce situation of how serious it was. I think we all knew we were waiting to see details of this sort of domestic violence charge, a WNBA player with whom he's involved. Harrowing, harrowing details, all sorts of police reports, a paper trail that goes back days, weeks, months. This is like menace to society level guy. So any thought that was like, well, maybe this is not a big deal and it blows over. There have been incidents where the charges have been dropped. It's not trending anywhere remotely in that direction. The first round pick last year, one of the core guys of their defense, they're going to have to release him. They are going to have to release him. And it's going to throw a pall over anything else they manage to do, the little moves they make, bringing Tua in, whatever else, keeping Kyle Pitts. Falcons team is in a like very negative situation right now.
Yeah, and the details are heinous. You never want to see
Yeah.
anything like that happen, off the field. You never want to be in a situation where you're the team having to navigate your way out of that. The PR mess of it is the least of the worries. It's
Right,
making sure
right.
that you handle this the right way, that you get him out of the building, out of the situation. And the worst thing you do is stand by a guy in that situation. And
Mhm.
it's not great because of what you invested in. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pierce is the guy that they traded up for
I,
or
I
was
forget.
I forget which because they took Jalen Walker and James Pierce last year, but the
Right,
fact that you might have traded an asset, these things don't happen in a vacuum, unfortunately and
right.
sadly. I mean, how many women do you know that you speak to that speak about past histories of abusive boyfriends or abusive relationships? It doesn't happen just one time. And if there were
Yeah,
any sort of whispers about this in a pre-draft interview or a background check or a scouting
right.
report or talking to coaches, just it doesn't bode well that you even went down that path if there was any inkling that this was a part of who Jalen Pierce is or was.
The only thing you say about that is the Falcons completely overhauled their front office. So if those people made those decisions, they've already paid for it with their jobs. But now this is a problem moving forward because, again, an asset was traded for a guy who's now not going to be part of the team. Weakness turns into a strength, and you better move quickly on this because it's not the kind of news you want to be making in March when everyone else is having fun talking about free agency and trades and things.
Yeah, no, and just I mean, you hate to bring it back to football after that,
Yeah,
and
okay.
given everything that's at stake off the field for him and obviously the woman involved, but they
Mhm.
have $13 million in cap space, and you're going to
Mhm.
have to replace him. It's not a lot of money to sit there and think about having to replace a player that had the kind of upside as a pass rusher in free agency. Just not great all around, and you don't have the first round pick to replace him. There's a lot of that going around in the league too, so it's not great.
It's not great. So the Falcons, again, making it a little more serious than some of this other stuff. Big losers of the last 72 hours.
Well, let's lighten the mood here a little bit if we can. What do we have coming up on the Two Deep Zone in the next couple days here?
More tampering, more news, whatever breaks, whatever's happened in the last couple minutes. I'm going to hit pro football talk real quickly because we've been talking for an hour and we might have missed something. That's nothing. Aaron Rodgers still undecided, and the Steelers are nosing around the quarterback market. They're nosing. The Steelers are nosing, people. Anyway, so it looks like we're good right now.
Murray's theme song. That's Kyler Murray's theme song that you're playing right there.
They're not thumbing around the market because that would be Kyler Murray's theme song. Can I ask you something? When does free agency actually start? When does it actually start?
It's Wednesday. I don't know the time of day. Wednesday, is it 4? Yeah, so it's.
I think it's Wednesday. It doesn't matter. It's already happened, but there will be another little of moves, I think. So we have to be ready for that.
It'll be like the second tier waves, the Evan Ingrams going to the Broncos type of moves of last year.
Right. It's kind of like there's Christmas morning, then Grandma comes over. Yeah. So there's bonus Christmas when you get like a smaller set of gifts, but it's still like it's still like gives you a little juice.
Yeah. Something we can monitor on an 80-degree Wednesday when we could be outside working on typing out our columns on the deck. So we're going to have some sort of free agency wrap up tomorrow as well between the hash marks and Friday. It'll be the mailbag. So send me your questions about the players your team signed that you wish that they would sign, players that are still unsigned. I'll pose those questions to agents, scouts, executive coaches, get the answers to you in the mailbag. But it should be a lot of fun. A little bit of housekeeping on the way out. If you enjoy Beardless Mike Tanier, we want to make sure that we keep him in a much happier, fulfilled place so he can regrow the beard. Go ahead and subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. You get all of the fantastic storytelling, and you're going to lift his spirits as well. If you enjoy my analysis, my deep dives, my features, you can check out Between the Hash Marks on Substack. And if you're listening to us here in Substack, there's 56 people in the room right now. Great to have you here in the live pod. Please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us a 5-star review and rating. Write out the review. Tell us any one, your favorite free agent signing from your team, a guest you'd like to have on the show, maybe rip me a little bit or rip Mike, whatever you write, just leave us 5 stars and we will read them on the air. We will read every 5-star review on the air. You can also check us out on YouTube at Matt Lombardo 975. This is a phone with Mike, and we got in just after the flurry of news yesterday. All hell didn't break loose today. We kind of threaded the needle here. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Mike, it was a great time. Maybe we'll talk to you next week or the week after, but don't do this again. Make sure there's some sort of beard back next week.
I'll pencil it in if I have to. And by the way, Braden Smith, Texans, 2-year deal, right tackle for the Colts. Colts managed to keep Alec Pierce. Say goodbye to everyone else, ladies and gentlemen. We got Daniel Jones. Oh, my God. Here we go. All right.